Hello, crafty friends. Thanks for joining. We're going to make a really simple card tonight. I say simple because the bulk of the work is stamping, which is a lot of fun, and we're just using white paper for that, but we get a really great color there. I'm kind of going with the traditional red, white, and blue. Let's go over the supplies we're going to use. For the card base, it's 5.5 by 4 1/4 standard size. And then as usual, we reduce by 1/4 inch for each layer. So the Poppy Parade layer is going to be 5 1/4 by 4. And then a white layer on top of that is 5 by 3 1/4. We have a piece of blue ribbon. This is like a burlap ribbon I had in my stash. About 5 inches long. You may want to wrap it around the card base, or you may want to leave it loose like I did there. And then for our sentiment, I have a white piece that's 1 by 1 3/4. And you can adjust this for whichever saying you decide to use on your card. And then again, just go 1/4 inch bigger in each dimension for the red. And this is going to be 1 1/4 by 2 inches to mount that on top of. So in the set that we're going to use for stamping, it's called Ocean Friends. It is currently available in the last chance sale on the Stampin' Up website, and I think it might even be discounted a little bit. It has the lobsters and the crabs that we're going to use, has some little bubbles we're going to add to our page, and then for the sentiments, you can choose between thanks so much, love you, or hello friend. And depending on which one you use, you would adjust the size of your white paper, a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, and then cut the red to just give a nice little border. So let's get started. We're gonna do second generation stamping, where we're gonna stamp once on a blank sheet of paper, and then our color will be a little bit lighter, and then we'll stamp onto our white paper with the lighter color. You can see here for the lobster with the red, and then we have another stamp that adds a detail that will stamp in first generation, meaning just ink it and put it on the paper. So I'll show you that, but that's why I'm getting out a spare piece of paper here to stamp off onto, or to stamp the first generation onto, and then the second generation goes on our card. So let's start with, we'll use Poppy Parade ink to match the paper exactly, which I love to do when I have the right things. And red ink is sometimes very messy, so we'll see if we can do this without making a mess. So our stamp has 2 images. It's probably easiest to see here. One that does the background color, and that's the one we're going to do in second generation, and then the detail one that will add second. And the crab has the same thing with it. So for the lobster, let me show you first just what I mean by second generation. So I've inked up the base picture, and if I stamp it once, it's nice dark red, and if I stamp it again, it's much lighter. So that'll be kind of the base of our lobster, which I'll stamp onto the card. And then I've just mounted these both on the same block. You don't have to do that, of course, but then the detailed stamp we'll do just in the darker red. So we are just kind of creating a random design here. And so I'm gonna also stamp off the edge of the card. So let me put another piece of paper there. So we'll stamp once to get to the lighter color, and then we'll stamp a second time on our card. And I'm just gonna put like 3 lobsters kind of going off the page. So ink up again, stamp off onto the scrap paper, and then stamp the second generation on our card. And then I'm gonna put one more up in the top. So again, stamp off on the scrap paper and stamp the second generation onto our card. So you see how that's a nice light red. I'm just gonna stamp a couple times to get a little bit of the ink off. And now we're gonna add the details with the other side of this stamp, the detail side, and we'll just go right over that, kind of lining it up. Excuse my head. And I think it's actually a good look when it doesn't line up exactly, so don't worry too much about this. But see how we get, with the same color ink, we get the darker details. I did much better when I wasn't trying to film. All right, and then we'll set this aside so I can clean it good later. And now, let's see, I think that's it for our Poppy Parade ink, so we'll put that one away. And then let's get out Night of Navy, a nice blue to go with our red and our white. And we'll do the same thing with the crab. So ink it up, stamp it off, and then the second time we'll get a nice light color. So ink it up, stamp it off, and then I'm just kind of filling in the rest of the card with the blue crab. Stamp off. And stamp the crab. Oh, that one didn't work so great, so let me go back. And sometimes this happens, I don't know quite why. I guess I just didn't get it down. You might be able to see there's still ink in that spot on the crab and no ink on my paper. So I'm just gonna go back in. We're going for a little bit of a messy look anyway. And get that on there. And then we'll do one more stamp off, and we'll stamp him in this spot. So now our paper's like filled up with the base of our design. Clean this off. And I'm gonna go back in with the details, the crab detail stamp, which is over here. And I think, honestly, if you just mount these one at a time, it's better. That'll give us nice dark lines. It adds so much dimension. This base and shade, I think, is the kind of official term. Base and shade stamping. I like these kind of stamps. You can see there's a lot of really good dimension there. And in some cases, the lines line up perfectly, and in some cases they're a little bit off, which introduces a little bit more white in the design, but I think that's fine. You can totally tell what it is. And now we are going to add a little bit of bubbles in the middle here. So I'm gonna use the Coastal Cabana, which is just a nice little aqua color. And there's some little bubble stamps on in this set. Just add those into some of the white spaces. And they can go off the edge. Don't really need to overdo it. There's another little bubble stamp that's got 3. I think I can fit that in here. All right, so that's good. And then while I have my ink out, I'm gonna use this little kind of coral seaweed stamp just to put on the inside of my card. That'll be cute. Actually, I think I might go all the way across the bottom. That's kind of cute. All right, and then let's see, do we want to put anything on the envelope? How about we do this crab? Let's see what just the outline looks like, because you can do the darker color first as well. So I would want it like this. I think I'll go ahead and add the base shade to it. There, that looks really dressy for the envelope flap. Okay, one more thing we're gonna stamp, which is the sentiment. And I'm using, let me close this one. I'm done with the Coastal Cabana. We're done with the Poppy Red. And we still have one more thing with the Night of Navy. We're gonna stamp the thanks so much. All right, so this card is really all stamping. So now we'll just assemble it very quickly. Normally, I would probably wash my hands at this point. So if I get a smudge, forgive me. We're just gonna put the Poppy Parade base down on the card front, centering it so you get a nice white outline, and then our beautifully stamped feature image goes on next. What beautiful colors. I hope you can see it on the video. It's great that you can get the ink that exactly matches the cardstock. Not necessary, but a little bonus. All right, now I'm gonna mount the white sentiment onto its little red backing. Trying to get it straight. And then as I said, I'm gonna just use a loose ribbon here. So let me cut this, just cutting an angle. It's just gonna float in the center there. So I will tape this down, and I'm not taping all the way to the edges, so it'll be a little loose and just give a little bit more dimension when things like that can move on the card. And then I'll use some stamping dimensionals on the back of my sentiment so it'll be popped up. And I'm not even adding any additional bling on this card, which I think is okay because it's got a lot going on. And in a way, these little Coastal Cabana colored bubbles are the bling. So there you go, a really easy, quick card. Thanks so much. This would be great to give to somebody who invites you to their 4th of July picnic. Or any occasion really. But I really like the lobsters and the crabs. The paper that comes with this set, with the Ocean Friends suite, is really beautiful. I should have pulled some out. It's got pinks and oranges and really bright colors, but I wanted to go traditional marine colors here. Now, the set also comes, or you can buy the die cuts that go with it, which allow you to cut out the lobster and cut out the crab. There's some waves and some seaweed. some coral that you can cut out, 3 little starfishes there. So I just played a tiny bit with that. One thing I thought you could do is, instead of using the white with the cardstock for the sentiment, I cut out the crab and then I used white embossing powder and put the sentiment on the crab. So you could have just put a crab there as a sentiment. And then because I had my embossing out, I saw I had some red embossing. And so this lobster, I used a die cut and cut out. I stamped only using the detail stamp. I used the Versamark ink and some red embossing powder and then heat embossed it. And I really like the way this lobster turned out. So I might make another card that uses the heat embossed lobsters. Could actually like kind of go over this design and pop up the lobsters maybe. But that's another thing you can do with the die set. So thanks for joining me. I hope you like this card. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you'd like to see next. Thank you.